know what I'm seeing.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it.
Okay. You have to let me know how the view is because I can't tell.
If you guys can see the camera in the car, type yes or LOL in the chat so we know it's working.
I can see it.
You can see it, okay.
I can see
So
it too.
we're recording now.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do more here. In video. There, I pinned your video and I'm gonna spotlight it.
Oh, cool. Now I can see.
Okay. And that should work. Can everyone see the video?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So what
I'm probably not allowed to, but I think I can walk down here.
the Overseas Highway is the main road that runs from Biscayne Bay all the way into the Florida Keys. That's the only way in by car. And right now, because of quarantine, there's not anyone there. Well, okay, it looks like there's a few people there. But normally this time of year it would be really packed. But because of quarantine, there's not as many people there. And so they've obviously taken this, time to do construction projects with fewer people around to be in the way. So that is the ocean side of the ocean. So if you're looking out at the ocean that way, you're looking pretty much towards Bahamas. And I guess if you went straight across, it'd be somewhere in the south of Italy, probably right, South Italy, South France, somewhere in there. But that would be 3,000 miles away. The water surrounding, and if you look in the distance, that's the Bahia Honda Bridge. It's hard to get close to it right now because everything's closed, and that's what we're going to be talking about. But the waters around the Florida Keys are really shallow, and where the old railroad went, which is the Bahia Honda Bridge you were just looking at, and it became US 1 later on after the 1930s hurricane, the waters are really shallow. But underneath the bridges, a lot of the water that is there is around 24 to 34, 35 feet deep. And that's what allows a lot of the larger ships to pass through the Florida Keys chain. And the bridge that you're seeing in Liddy's video is actually, it connects Bahia Honda Key to Spanish Harbor Key. And that's one of the main entry points to get into Spanish Harbor so that ships can traverse from the ocean side into the Gulf of Mexico and go on about their business. A lot of commercial fishing takes place underneath the bridges, especially for tarpon. It's a game fish. People fish it for sport and then they release it. And that kind of, it draws a lot of money and tourism into the Keys. So what I was going to talk about today, and I've got about 2 quick pages of notes, is I posted the article about Bahia Honda and the Overseas Railway on today's area of Moodle and today's module. And that article was talked all about the development and how this road and railway came to be. So the Florida Keys extend from the Biscayne Bay, which is just south of Miami, to the Dry Tortugas. Now, the Dry Tortugas are approximately 50 to 70 miles further west of Key West, but there's no road connecting the Dry Tortugas. But the Dry Tortugas is home to a fort, and it's a major tourist destination, and most people go by either plane or boat. This area holds stories of pirates and buccaneers and smugglers from early on in its history. So early in the Florida Keys history, when it was Spanish occupied, this area, because of all the inlets and places to hide boats and the treacherous land, it was a mecca for buccaneers and smugglers and pirates, basically. It is difficult to tell what is true historically between historical fact and legend. So legend and history kind of get lost, and it's difficult. And there's a few books that do a really good job of explaining the Florida Keys history. Key West was known originally as the Island of Bones or Isle of Bones, and most people call it Bone Island. And in 1880, the Great Southern Railway Company was tasked with building a railroad into South Florida. prior to that, all of the commodities and everything that was brought in by boat. So they wanted to commission a railway to reach through South Florida into the Florida Keys, and talks of that began in the late 1800s. Later on in 1902, Henry M. Flagler put together a group to create the route to Big Pine Key. That's where I moved from, and that's almost where Liddy's at right now. She's about 1 mile to 2 miles away.
Can we be quiet for about 5 minutes?
Say that again? Sorry, I didn't hear you. We'll hold your questions for a second and I'll continue on. So in 1902, Flagler put together a group to create the route to Big Pine Key. And that's where I was just talking about. That's where Bahia Honda Beach is, just north of that, and on to Key West. By 1916, the foundation of the railroad and pretty much everything was in place. And it supports today what is known as the Overseas Highway, which is the road that's just to the left of the video that Liddy's showing. The route crosses 43 bodies of water, including the 7-mile stretch known today as the 7-mile bridge. And Liddy had just drove across the 7-mile bridge, and it's one of the most famous bridges in the Florida Keys. And if you watch a lot of the car commercials and movie commercials that are out there, a lot of times they'll show helicopter video of the 7-mile stretch and the stretch you're looking at here, which is the Bahia Honda stretch. Let's see here. The route, crosses the 7-mile bridge. During the construction in 1906, a hurricane hit, taking 100 workers' lives and damaging equipment. While they were, over the 10-20-year period it took them to construct this, they were hit with several hurricanes, and it took, it cost people their lives. It slowed the project. It damaged equipment and damaged the bridges they were trying to put it together and build it. The bridge itself was known as one of America's engineering marvels. And another great bridge is the Bahia Honda Bridge, which is what you're looking at, which is located between Bahia Honda and Spanish Harbor Key. It spans 5,055 feet, and it crosses waters that are up to 24 feet deep, probably a little deeper now. Much of the concrete used underwater was imported from Germany, along with many other imported materials. So a lot of the timbers were imported, and the concrete actually came from Germany, which I thought was interesting. Labor and skilled workers to work and build the railroad were very difficult to find, and many who worked the project were immigrants. The men lived on site in makeshift housing right along the road that you see there. There used to be housing that would go up as they were putting the railroad in. One of the major things that they had to battle were mosquitoes. At that point in time, they did not have mosquito control, and they were a major problem and nuisance during the construction. And mosquitoes brought things like dengue fever, disease, and were just a major
Malaria.
So the mosquitoes were the result of numerous hurricanes that had continually hit the area during the construction of the bridge. Another challenge that the workers had was fresh water. At that time, there was no fresh water sources between the mainland and Key West, which is over 130 miles span. So all the fresh water had to be brought in by truck, rail, boat. All of it had to be shipped in. Nowadays, we have underneath the Bahia Honda Bridge, and well, not the Bahia Honda Bridge, but underneath the 7-mile bridge and the Overseas Highway, we have a large 3-foot round pipe that basically feeds all the water into the Florida Keys. The fresh water comes from Lake Okeechobee through a processing plant, and it's pretty clean water. It's pure. It's known as really good water. I was always skeptical to drink it, but it was supposedly really good, and it's pumped in there today. So when we have hurricanes today, one of the major concerns is that something would happen to one of the bridges and knock out the water source, which would create a huge problem for anyone that was still in the Keys or stayed during a hurricane. They would not have access to fresh water, and that's, as you can imagine, not good. The railroad operated for 23 years until Labor Day of 1935, when one of the most destructive hurricanes hit. The U.S. was in the midst of a Great Depression, and the railroad was abandoned, and later the state converted the railroad over to the overseas highway. Let's see what else I have here. They used the foundation that was existing to create the road into the Keys. And today, a lot of the portions of it can still be seen. So in the after 1935 and going into the 40s, the road was paved, and it was known as the old overseas highway. And it was very narrow, 2-lane road. That was it. And later on, it was expanded. And when they expanded it, they kind of changed some of the route. So the Bahia Honda Bridge that you see in the distance there used to be part of the old way you would drive in. And it's scary because it is really narrow. Now, if you were to walk up on that bridge, it's pretty much falling apart. There's holes right through the concrete and the road that used to be there, and it's no longer used. The new highway deviates from the old railroad path in spots, so it reveals some of what you can see off to the side there, and it happens in a few places throughout the Keys where you can see the old road. And there's really not any remnants that I'm aware of any of the railroad tracks. I'm sure they took the steel out and recycled it. However, I'm sure if you were to dive some of the surrounding areas, you'd be able to see some of the equipment that had been lost in some of those hurricanes. So let me stop for a minute and I'll look in the chat. Do you guys have any questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Isn't that pretty interesting though? I mean, I know it's kind of far off in the distance, but you guys are literally standing right next to the
Yeah, I wish I could
highway.
get closer.
Yeah,
There's lots of people and then a state trooper's nearby too, so I don't want to.
Oh, I see.
Passing.
Is Bahia Honda State Park closed?
Yeah, the state parks are closed. I might be able to go on the other side of the bridge. I don't know, it's kind of far.
I see. Well,
I can definitely show you the 7 Mile. I think Veterans Park is open.
Okay, that's fine. If you want to head back that way, we can travel with you and just be safe driving and don't let the state police see you.
No worries, I'm good. I'm just looking like a tourist. It's okay.
And
you see how pretty the water is? It's super shallow right now.
Yeah, it's low tide.
Oh, there's a helicopter going by.
Yes. Now, is that military? No, that's one of the. No, that's military. No, that's mosquito control, isn't it?
Might be. I think they were checking the lines earlier.
I see. Well, and for those of you wondering, the reason most likely that's a mosquito control helicopter, and they drop pellets all over the open water down there to help combat the mosquitoes. Right now, there's probably no mosquitoes around, or every once in a while there's an uptick.
Not too bad right now.
It's not too bad. That's something that we don't have. So the waters that you're looking at, they're really bright turquoise colored. What you're seeing that causes the coloration, a combination of sandy spots and sandbars. You're also seeing underwater, seaweed and growth. It's the dark spots. And it's very shallow. So when you navigate these waters by boat, you have to be very mindful. And so they kind of have a saying where if it's brown, brown, run aground, green, greens, I can't remember the saying, but sail on through. They give you kind of some warnings for navigating the water because it's so shallow. Looks like they're still doing quite a bit of construction down there, huh?
Yeah, they're taking advantage. There's construction on the bridge itself on 7 Mile. So it's definitely happening.
Oh, I see.
All right, well, I'm going to head back that way and then I'll join the call again.
Okay, all right.
Circling.
All right, we'll hang out here and I'll take questions until you come back on, all right?
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Mr. P, back in the 1800s, there was a fort called Port Royal. It was the most sinful port in supposedly the world. It's called Port Royal, and it was destroyed because it was built on sand. and
Oh.
suddenly a tsunami came, and then like sandy, muddy water came through the ground and killing almost the whole population. All of the construction is underwater. It's said that God's wrath was put upon them that day because it was the most sinful place in the world.
No kidding.
There was pirates. Every like mile there was a beer or a bar, like a bar.
Well, that sounds kind of like Key West. Key West has 283 bars within a 3-mile stretch. And what's interesting about down there now is the way we were looking at the bridge is actually, that's the way towards the mainland. And that's where she's driving right now. She's going to the other side. But if you go up to that, and that's about mile marker 33. And that's exactly where I lived. I mean, I could have walked to where you guys just saw the video. But if you go up the Keys, to about mile marker 75, there's a place called Indian Key. And Indian Key is really interesting because it was a small settlement, an early settlement. And a lot of the settlers that originally inhabited Indian Key were in fact killed by Indians. And there was a lot of strife there. And it's one of the locations where they talk about treasure in the Florida Keys. Well, it's actually one of the places that few people know that there's actually treasure to be found there. When the Indians were attacking, and I gotta remember the story right, but when the settlers were trying to settle, there was a storm, and there was like a strife going on between the people on Indian Key, and a ship was sinking, and the people on the ship had treasure. And so what they did was they weighted down their pockets and took as much as they could carry because they ran aground right by Indian Key. And as they were swimming to Indian Key, they dropped everything because it was either drop your gold or drown. And the waters around Indian Key are pretty treacherous. But if you were to go just north of Indian Key today, in fact, Lydia, when she was just a little girl, we took her to Indian Key. We took her out on kayaks, and it got to be too windy. But we were looking for the ballast stone pile that lies in 18 feet of water just northwest of Indian Key, maybe 300 yards off the island. And then we were going to metal detect back to the island to see if we could find anything. However, it started to get windy, and we had to go back, and we never actually got a chance to find the ballast stone pile or metal detect for treasure. So maybe someday I'll get a chance to go back there and do that. And it's sad because today, looking at the water, it's very calm. This time of year, there's not a lot of wind, and it's the perfect time to do that. So anyways, any questions at this point? All right, I'll take a minute and do some updates. And let's see here. So have any of you guys heard about the NTI Gold Star program?
Yes, I got that. There's my gold star is like tied to my lamp right now, right next to me.
Yes. So what we started doing Friday, a group of us teachers, we decided that we wanted to reward students that were doing all their NTI work and doing a really good job. And so all teachers submitted names of students, and we didn't get to them all, so we're still working on it. I think we're having another task force going out Friday. We delivered boxes of candy and balloons to those students.
I got a paper too that said Gold Star winner.
Yes, and certificates. So that I think that we're going to continue to try to do that through the end of the year. I think I will ask at our 2:00 meeting today. I'll ask Miss Markham if we're going to have the whole live class session again, and we'll see how that goes. I'm thinking for my NTI day 37, 38, whatever they want me to do. I might actually just go ahead and put the video recording for today up along with the article, and then I'll turn that article in and print it for the students that want to do it on paper, because they can read the article and pretty much get everything. The only problem with the article is, it's really difficult to kind of set it to all kinds of grade levels for reading. So, but it is what it is. So, and I might put in a discussion board post about Bahia Honda. We'll have to see. Hopefully, Liddy will be logging back in here in just a few minutes, and she should be able to show you guys the 7 mile. I'm sure she's probably just trying to find a place to park. That road that she's driving on, the overseas highway right there, there's really not any pull-offs. You have to cross the Bahia Honda bridge right there. And what's funny is if once you get right past the Bahia Honda bridge, there is a place, oh gosh, you guys would love it. It's right at the edge of the Bahia Honda State Park, and there's a little island off. I mean, you could swim to it from the road. And I can't remember the name of the island. I think it's Sunset Key, or it's a little know-nothing island that is not very well known for a name. But we used to take our boat there, and we would, take a picnic and some chairs and turn the radio on in the boat and just hang out there in the afternoons. And then we could drive home on our boat from right where Liddy was at. I have gone through that water thousands of times, and it's 80 degrees year round. The water temp in the summertime gets upwards of 90 degrees. It's like bath water. In the wintertime, it can get down to the upper 60s, which is cold for ocean water. And but we'd still go out like all the time. In fact, Liddy was out on the boat this weekend. She told us both Saturday and Sunday. Since there's really not a lot to do and everyone's under quarantine, well, you can quarantine on your boat and go out to the remote islands and just enjoy nature, So hopefully she will log back in. I'll text her and see how she's doing. Let's see here.
I've been just looking up stuff to just keep my mind going, and a key thing the Nazis were doing to make nukes, a key ingredient to the nuke was a liquid, a thing called heavy water. And a spy actually got on the Nazi boat full of heavy water, planted a bomb, and saved probably millions by blowing up that ship. And it sank straight to the bottom of a German lake, and the heavy water is still there and still in those containers.
No kidding. What was actually the definition of heavy water?
I don't really know. Heavy water's kind of it's a clear liquid, and it's filled with chemicals, and they would use it, and Nazis were advanced. Like, they were advancing faster than the U.S. could. They were making nukes, everything. And then that kind of slowed them down. Big time.
I hear you. All right, well, Liddy is just joining back, and I'm getting her set up with
Yep, I made it over to the fishing bridge of the 7 mile.
Okay. I'm just trying to get your video set. There we are. All right, let me see. Can everyone see her video?
Yeah, it's kind of blurry.
Kind of blurry? Well,
I may not have the best
spotty in the keys, so we'll do the best we can. So where did you end up stopping? Are you at the boat ramp, Liddy?
Yep, so I was gonna go to Veterans Park, but there's a lot of people over there on the beach and you couldn't really see it. So I parked over here by the boat ramp off the 7 mile.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's not anybody over here. But everybody's staring because I look like a news reporter or something.
Oh, really? There's a news reporter?
No, that's what I look like. People are
Oh, that's
staring
what
at
you
me.
look like. I see. All right. So as you're looking at the video, that is the Gulf of Mexico. That is the Gulf side. In fact, I used to launch my boat out of there all the time. If you go out towards the horizon there a little bit and take a right, you'll be able to actually drive a boat right underneath the Bahia Honda Bridge. She's right next to it. You just can't see it because of the height of the road. And yeah, she's pointing at the area over there. And let's see. A lot of times when you get storms rolling up, you'll see water spouts in the area. And that's pretty interesting. Let me check and see if I have any. Nope, no one's trying to get in. So, and they have a lot of walking areas and places to see. And then if you go into the actual state park, they have food. Well, maybe not right now, but they have.
Yeah, that was closed. I did check.
They are closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured they would be.
I think they're talking about reopening stuff soon, maybe. Beaches and stuff, I know, but just the locals for sure. So
Did you guys see a lot of people out in the water this weekend?
Not too many actually. It was kind of rainy, so not too many people were out anyways, but yeah, I mean it hasn't been too crowded. There's definitely not a lot of people here right now, so.
I see.
Oh,
What's the plaque say? Let's go see the plaque. I don't know if we'll be able to read it.
Oh yeah, that's under the bridge. It's scary. That's between them. So, dedicated in recognition of the Honorable Florida State Representative Bernie C. Pappy. See?
Yeah, that's great.
Nice.
So she's right at the beginning of the 7-mile bridge.
Yep, and this is where everybody fishes, so they have regulations and stuff here.
Now, what do you suppose the odds are of seeing any manta ray or stingray?
I don't know. You never know. There's definitely nobody out here fishing, so I don't really have anything to entice them. But you never know.
Well, don't drop your phone, but
here, right?
that might be a really good note we can end on, is if we get to see some wildlife.
Well, you never know. Look at it already. It's so pretty. It's so beautiful.
There we go. I got you pinned now. Can everyone see the video okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, you're looking at sandbars and rocks and seagrass. And a lot of times when you're looking down at the water like that, you'll see stingray, which, are pretty good size. Manta ray are absolutely huge. Maybe an occasional tarpon. Pelicans. You'll see a lot of pelicans on the bridges where people fish.
There's little sharks sometimes. You never know.
Did you say there's a shark down there?
Sometimes you can see them.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see nurse sharks, and usually a good spot. Depends where the tide's at.
Yep, sorry. There's a little house on that island out there.
That's the one that really got beat up in the hurricane, right? Is it still dead?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the Hurricane Irma, the island that you're seeing in the video, there's a little house on, and after the hurricane, none of the green came back. It's just brown brush, and so
it's like when it's fall. Everything just dies, and it's stayed the same since the hurricane. It's been what, 3 years?
Oh, there's something jumping there. Or is that just the waves?
Might be. I can't tell. It's hard to see.
I see. Well, every once in a while you get lucky and see dolphin.
Yeah. I hope I'm allowed to be out here. It's prettier between the bridges. It's deeper.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody drives. We're that close to the road.
you probably have a better view of the water as far as the clarity. I don't know if I can, let me see if I make.
Oh, there's a big school of fish, see?
Oh yeah.
There was a big snapper between them.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if I can use my glasses. Let me try.
Oh, for polarization? Oh, absolutely. No, it works. It does.
Does it work?
Yeah, it does polarize. So what she's doing is she's holding her sunglasses over so that you can see into the water better a little bit. They probably
tell
make
the
a filter
difference?
for it, but we don't have it.
There's fish down there.
If I could blow your video up.
Is it still tiny for you guys?
No, it's good size. It's just not like they're entered full screen. I don't know if anyone else.
It's because you're filming on an iPhone and it's like the size of like the screen, and then it doesn't blow up that well.
Does it look different for you guys now?
Nope.
Okay. I just made it big on my screen then. That's all that happened. So, well, I hope you guys liked today. A little bit of a field trip. I mean, I'm sure all of you'd like to be there and go to the beach. What's the temperature there right now, Liddy?
High 80s, 88 maybe or so.
Oh,
Kind of
so
windy though, so it's not too bad.
I was wondering if it was a little bit windy. It didn't look like it was too windy, but I could hear it.
Yeah, we had some storms yesterday, but it's clear today.
I see.
So it's nice. Yeah.
I don't see a lot of fishing guides out on the flats yet either.
Nope, not right now.
Well, I
Nobody's
guess they
paying
would be.
them,
There's
so.
no
It's Little Duck Key.
little
Where we're
bit.
at. We're still doing construction over here too. And on the other side of the 7 Mile Bridge, that one's closed as well. So.
Nice.
And on the bridge. So getting lots of stuff done.
That's good. So if you ever visit, you'll have a couple of ideas of places you can stop and see, and it costs nothing to go to these places. And did you have any other thoughts, Liddy?
You want me to show them anything else, or?
You know, I got another meeting coming up here, and I think we'll call that a wrap for today.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's
All
definitely
right.
nice out. I'll send some good weather your way.
Oh, that'd be great. Notice all the palm trees, guys.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yep. Well, all right. Thank you, Liddy.
All right. See you later. Have a good day.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
All right. And for the rest of you guys, I guess just type something in the chat so I know that you were part of the live video. Does anyone have any questions? No questions. Did you guys like today? Was it worth the effort? It's a lot to coordinate this from, Kentucky to the Florida Keys to you guys. You think it was worth it?
I liked it.
Okay, well, yeah, it's a really cool place to go. It's actually, as long as you don't live there, it's pretty cheap to do things, and you can go fishing right off those bridges, and there's no cost. You just get a fishing license, and what most people use to fish for, like the snapper. Snapper are kind of like your, gosh, what would they be like? They're kind of like a giant bluegill, sort of, but they're better eating. And they get up to, you can get snapper that are like 11, 12, 13 pounds. And the best way to fish for them is with shrimp, live shrimp. You just get a little bucket of live shrimp and you put your hook through the live shrimp, throw it off, and they're gonna hit it almost before it hits the water. The thing about snapper is they have a couple of sharp teeth, two little sharp teeth. Actually, I think it's like 4, but 2 big fangs. They're like needles, but they're known for snapping. They will snap their jaws at you, and if they get a hold of your fingers or your hand, that is not a good day on the water. So the thing, I don't know if I showed it to you guys, I brought in the boga grip, which is a special instrument we use to grab the fish with teeth so we don't get bit. And it's also got a weight on it. So snapper's a great fish to fish for off the bridges. You know, a lot of the tourists catch sharks, but, you know, one thing on sharks is they're a different kind of animal. When you actually look at a shark or catch a shark, they have like eyes that are like cat eyes. You can tell that they've got a lot going on. They're thinking and processing. And so I always encourage people not to take sharks, even though there is an abundance in the Keys. I have taken and killed and eaten shark in the Keys. But overall, it's not something I would recommend doing very often. If you live in the area and you know how to do that, and you know how to process shark, because most of the time, if a tourist catches a shark, they end up just killing it and mutilating it and never eating it, because shark is extremely difficult to prepare. There's a whole process that you need to do when you catch it, and a lot of tourists don't know how to do that. So when they actually try to cook the meat, it's tainted, it's not good. Sharks urinate through their skin, so they smell like ammonia. And if you don't properly prepare the shark from the moment you catch it to the moment you cook it, it's not going to be very good. So, but other species of fish like snapper and sea trout are really good eating. And if you do get a chance to go offshore, you can troll for blackfin tuna, you know, wahoo, fish that you guys can't buy in the grocery store. None of us can. And in fact, they don't even really sell it in the grocery stores in the Keys. But wahoo, kingfish, blackfin tuna, yellowfin tuna are some of the best eating fish in the world. But unfortunately, most of China actually buys most of the fish that are caught commercially in the Florida Keys, because Americans, for the most part, won't pay the same market price. Stone crab claws, for instance, we go and get those. They go for about $80, $90 a pound is what they sell for. So same thing with wahoo and really good fish. It's pretty pricey. But if you go out and catch it on your own, well, there you go. It doesn't cost anything. So, all right, guys, if there are no questions, I'll check the chat. We're going to wrap it up, and hope you enjoyed today's show or today's class. And I got to get on to my next meeting. So don't see anything in the chat. So have a great day, guys.
Wow.
Talk to you later.